We are back for part 2 of Homeschooling the Little Years. That's kind of how I deal with multiples, but I do agree with Stephanie, starting with the youngest. I've done that, like, and I focus on reading.
Yeah.
Even math, I will count with them sometimes, but focus on reading. If you can get reading down in a fun, exciting way, that is literally the foundation for every single other subject you are going to teach your child. And like we already established, you can do that in 20 minutes or less a day and make it fun. And they can start reading. By the time they're 5, I can almost guarantee if you're doing it right, doing it well, and staying consistent, they're going to be at a first grade level of reading. And you'll be completely fine. Once they get there, there's like this moment in reading. Yes. And it's like, we made it through another kid. Like I've made it through 6 kids.
Well, and it's funny because they'll start reading signs, they'll start reading stuff, and I'm like, how do you know how to read that? Yes. It's super exciting for everybody involved.
So I think if you have multiple kids, go ahead and enlist your other kids to help. And try to get a curriculum that isn't going to overwhelm the crud out of you. Yeah. Like that's what I see a lot of homeschoolers do. Like they're trying to fit this and fit that in. In our homeschool, I don't do history every day. I have a dedicated history day. For 2 hours of history, we go through all 3 of our lessons for that week of history. And we sit down and I have it. It works for our family. It's a classical way of learning. Same thing with science. I was just telling Stephanie, like there's dedicated days to that isn't going to butt into all of the like language arts, English, writing, all that stuff. That's saved for the core 4 days of the week that we homeschool. And homeschooling 4 days a week like was a game changer for me.
Game changer.
And then just doing the history on another day. I usually do it on Sunday or a Friday. It's so
you do 4 days too?
Yes.
All 3 of us do 4 days a week.
Yep.
It's a game changer. It really is. And what you can get done in those. And like I said, we still finish all of our curriculum books in a decent. It's still good. We take a summer break, so May, June, and July off.
Yep. So I shortened it even more to that. So we take Fridays off, although the teenager is due to finish this year, so she wants to school on Fridays. She can do what she wants.
Yeah,
she schools at nighttime too. She's ambitious. You can do what you want.
Yep.
But Monday through Thursday, we're supposed to school. But Thursday during the school year is our co-op day. So I'm technically not teaching them. They're taking other subjects from other people. And then I just talked to my husband this past year because trying to take on different businesses, he's now in charge of Wednesdays with the kids. So I only have to school Monday and Tuesday to begin them in their week. And I help throughout the week here and there, but I'm not doing the big things that I used to do. But let's go back to reading because I feel like that's a really big part of learning. And I want to hear
the foundation.
I know you guys use it's the foundation. You guys use the good and the beautiful. Have you always used the good and the beautiful? What do you love about teaching littles how to read with it?
I have always used the good and the beautiful. I've taught 2 of my girls how to read with the good and the beautiful. My oldest, we didn't start until 6 months into our homeschool journey. She went to public school kindergarten and then I pulled her home for first grade. And so she already had the foundations of reading from kindergarten. And then coming in, I started something different. I used All About Reading because that's what the charter school had recommended to me. And she didn't love it. And I was feeling like I was having to add all these other pieces and grammar and this and that. And somebody recommended the good and beautiful about January of our first year when she was in first grade. And I thought it was like $40 at the time. I thought, well, I'll try it. If it doesn't work, then no harm, no foul for $40. And we absolutely loved it and have been there ever since. I've done all of their levels from preschool all the way through to level 6. And my other 2 started preschool with that, and hands down, they have become phenomenal readers. 100%, it's solely on the good and the beautiful. I think it's the repetition. It's the short lessons. They're not super daunting. And it is the way that they put the phonics together and put the like OA and OU and then what they say. And then you practice a bajillion words with those sounds, not really a bajillion, but like 15 in a lesson, but it's so short that it's not super daunting.
Yeah.
And then you do it again in a couple lessons and then you do it again. And so it comes all together.
So I think Stephanie has the blog post on homeschooling and I do as well. And I actually linked all of the resources I used for the little years all the way up to 8th grade. What has worked for me, because this is the first year this is the second year I've actually done Good and the Beautiful. For some reason, and I don't even recommend going through the whole book, but I love starting them out with Leapfrog Letter Factory. I will play that for multiple weeks.
Yeah. And they love it.
Yep, we will enjoy that thing. I don't care how many times I have to hear it. I've heard that a zillion bajillion times. But that's how all of my kids have learned. And that I do that well before I even start doing anything to do with school. And then I use, while they're doing that, I go through, it's called Rod and Staff, and it's just like this most simple stuff, just kind of teaching them art and like shapes and different stuff. And then I have used Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. I have never gone through all 100 lessons because I think that it jumps too fast, which some people it might work for. Like Gil, it worked for him. He was like, but he wanted to read so bad. But the rest of my kids, I only go through the first, like up to like lesson 60, but I repeat the first few lessons until I know the child can actually attach the letters. Right. And then from there, I kind of move on to Dick and Jane. And then I use, then from like 1st to 3rd grade for their reading books, I use Pathway Readers, which is also from Rod and Staff. Yep. However, I have been doing, I've kind of done all of it, but I've included the Good and the Beautiful this year. I've included the level K. And it is
and they're early readers.
Yes, it is very, very true that she knows and can say so many more words because of their booster cards, the repetitive booster cards, that I only spend less than a couple minutes on it every single day.
Right.
So I do highly agree. So it's just making sure, I think, finding a reading curriculum that you feel good enough to read. I feel like because I've taught all my kids with 101 easy lessons until this year, last year is when I started Zoe. I just kind of feel confident in that. But if you're going to teach it either that one or there's another one that's out there. It's called
Is it All About Reading?
All About Reading.
Yeah, that's what we started with.
All About Reading. I know some people love that curriculum. I did get it. I didn't love it. I felt like it was too advanced. I personally felt like it was too advanced, or I couldn't. It probably was just because it wasn't my teaching style. Right. That's probably what it really came down to. But I've heard a lot of people love that.
And they have another one that's called All About Spelling, so you can get some of their other stuff.
Yes.
We just didn't love it for our family, but it may be a very good option for somebody else.
Yeah. But we're gonna link we're gonna link both of those blog posts. Stephanie has one and I have one I just put out, because that is one thing I get a lot in messages is like, what do you do? And I would always sit down and write a fresh message and be awesome. And I'm like,
here's the link.
Yeah, here's the link.
Yeah, just put in the link. I will say I'm a little bit different than both of you, although I did also do the Leapfrog Factory. Know it well, can sing it even today. What I did differently was I didn't give him a curriculum, and I got into, it was another person who I was listening to at the time, the Read Aloud Revival. She has a podcast. What is her name?
It's Sarah something, isn't it?
Sarah McKenzie. Thank you, Kylie. Anyway, we listened to Read Aloud Revival, and it just made me want to. I heard story after story after story about how good it is to read aloud to your child, what it does to their brain while they're listening to you, even at an early age when they can't put the words together themselves. And then there was this one story that inspired me. It was a dad, and for his child's entire life, so like even going into high school and graduating, every single night he sat down and he read aloud to his daughter, and that was their thing that they did together. They always, and it grew with them. So you do picture books, but you never really stop doing picture books, because you shouldn't ever stop doing picture books. but it just grew. So they were reading middle graders, and then they were reading YA, and then they're reading adult stuff, but he was reading aloud to his daughter every single night. And just the phonics alone that they can learn from hearing you and putting it together. My son learned how to read only by the Letter Factory, painting, and then read alouds with mom, and then the early readers from The Good and the Beautiful. I didn't even get the curriculum. I just got the really, really early readers that shows you at the beginning what the sounds that the letters make. And they're very Dick and Jane, like he ran over.
I love those. Yes.
Ran over there. Like those books. I got those, and the pictures were beautiful for him, but they were just the right size, nice and tiny, the way little kids like things, you know, itty bitty. So he's reading through it, and he loved it, and he graduated from that to the next one, but we never overwhelmed him with, you have to read this, or why don't we sit down and read this together. Reading was always a treat that we did together. And then the only other thing that we did that was different was the morning basket, which there's a morning basket podcast. Loved that one too.
We did that
where
too.
it's, did you? I love it. You put all these things together that you're supposed to read in the morning, and you just unload all this stuff to your kids.
We did that for many years on how, like, that's how we started our homeschool day.
Really?
We'd sit down and do morning basket together, and then we moved to the table.
See, I loved that. And we've grown away from it. And now it's more like a morning feast. We all just like to eat together.
Yeah, we do it at breakfast time, and we kind of do a Bible time and read aloud and all that at Bible then, and then we go to the table. But we used to like eat breakfast, clean it up, and then everybody joined together in the living room and did a morning basket.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And so I still think though that reading is the thing that has propelled my children into the love of learning, because we set the stages early for them in reading.
Yes.
Everything else was just, you know, it came together.
And I love all the different perspectives here, because there are moms out there that are not wanting to like have a curriculum or have, there's moms that just want to like kind of like ease into it and relax into it. And then there's moms like, I would say us, that we need somebody to say, do this page and this page. Like, and we're like, okay, we check it off. The other day I went, okay, so I love checking things off so much. I'm in there and I have this checklist, and I was checking things off from the day before that I did just because I could check it off. And my husband comes in and he's like, why are you checking that off? It's ours. Yesterday's gone. I was like, the satisfaction of checking a box. So for those moms who want to love checking boxes, that's good. But also know, if you're not a mom who is that kind of person, who's willing to just like get your baskets out. And like, I love that. I've seen, what are you talented in? And like Ariel said, it's like, the reading is the most foundational. So any other subject that you're trying to overwhelm your kid to, drop the science, watch a YouTube video. Like if they ask them, okay, so do you want to learn about bees? Fine. We'll look a YouTube video up about bees. That counts as science. If you're learning something and kind of talking about it, do a coloring sheet if you're worried about science. However, at that age, even the public school system isn't necessarily extremely worried about science. No. They're more worried about the core subjects.
Yeah.
So just take the pressure off. If you have to start a little younger on reading, because you feel like you want to, that's fine. Otherwise, just be extremely easy about it. And there's a lot of other moms out there who either are strict and like to check a box, or they're like Ariel and are like, just let's ease into this. Let's read together. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Know your teaching style and learn your students' teaching style or learning style. And I don't care how many different learning styles are in the house. Like I have several different learning styles at my house, but because I am confident in my teaching style and I'm confident in their learning style, I don't really have a lot of issues with them.
Right.
Now, I don't want to go jinx it because I'm really enjoying the homeschool right now, but so far, like I don't have a lot to complain about, but I think it's because I'm not killing myself over it. I'm not, I'm not shoving it down the kid's throat in such a way that I'm like, you have to stand for, several, even my high schoolers, if I give them a subject and I say, you need to have this done, if they can do it in as long or a shorter period of time as they want to. That's up to the student. And that's one of the things I love about homeschooling is each student gets to decide, like, do I want to sit here all day and mom's going to make me just sit here and do my school, or do I want to just get it done? More times than not, there's enough excitement going on outside in nature that they want to get done with that book work, and it gets done really fast. So just honing your focus in on the little years with reading and just being gentle with yourself and gentle with them. Like, they're just little, just let them be little.
Yeah. And I will say that on top of reading, I think the next step besides arithmetic, which it's a core foundation, is writing. And writing is teaching your children how to think. That's what that is, how to be proficient thinkers in their world so that they develop their brain. It's I think it was Jordan Peterson, right, who talks about, Andrea, you would know, it's about how writing is one of the things that developed the brain the most for children because it teaches them how to think. And that's difficult for a good amount of children who hate writing. And I've taught creative writing classes, formal writing classes for years to groups of children because I like it so much. And it's one of those things that I tell in almost every single class is that when you write something down, it can outlive you. And that's crazy to me. If you get your thought pattern to a certain point where you're writing something of value down that you're inspiring the next generation, it will outlive you. And so we always ask the students, why do we write? Because that's at the crux. If you're writing because you need to get an essay done, I don't think you understand the purpose of writing. You really need to know before you start writing why you write. And that was one of the things that we introduced at a young age, because when I introduced it at a young age, why do we write? They understood, okay, now I understand why I'm writing. And sure, they didn't understand the grandiose, you're going to make an impact someday of value, and you could write bills and legislature, and you could do so much. You could write books and inspire. And we didn't go that far at a young age, but just understanding why we write was so huge to getting them to actually take that step when they didn't want to write. Why do I need to have good penmanship? Why do I need to learn cursive? Why do I need to write? And so beyond reading, I think writing was the next one. That was so huge for the littles.
And there's actually some, I have to look it up because I've had this one for 11 years. I think it might still be online. I'll have to check. But I have this book. If you're trying to get your child to learn how to write and you just want a free resource, it was free. All I did is I printed it off and I put it in a bunch of sleeves. And all of my kids have learned to write really well using this free resource. So I'm going to find that and see if I can find that. Otherwise, there's a ton of really good, for preschool writing practice. I know the Good People has some doodling ones you can do. You can find a bunch of free printables.
Do you remember what it was called?
Dinosaur ABCs or something like that. And it was a free printable. I'll have to Google it when I get home. And I'll make sure it gets linked. But we'll try to make sure if it's still live. I guess to kind of pull this all together, you want them to enjoy learning and not hate it. So I guess the big thing is just stop trying to teach it all. Really hone in and focus. Let them be little. Get yourself together. And I think Stephanie really hit the nail on the head. If you're going to teach a little kid, don't wait until the evening. Eat them breakfast, clean it up, and just show that excitement right away. Because that's what it is. Every time I've done it first thing in the morning and get it out of the way, not only
all of them, you have the whole of them. If you're pulling them away from something that they wanted to do, or they're in the middle of, even if you get them to the table or to the couch or wherever you're doing your school at with minimal fight, they're not all there. They're still thinking about the baby doll in the other room in the crib that they had tucked in and all of that. It just, when you can grab them right there, their bellies are full, they're alert, they're awake, and they're all in. Now, I know this is little years, but for older ones, to go back to the overwhelm, adjust your schedule accordingly. So with the little ones, doing in the evening is just probably never going to work. I don't know about you, but all my toddlers and young ones have been done by 4:00. Their day is shot. But with the older ones, if you
Mhm.
just have a busy schedule, a busy day, it's okay to school at different times of the day. It does work the best for my family, and I know for your family to do it first thing in the morning and to be done by lunchtime. But there are some weeks where it's okay to make that adjustment. And there have been weeks where the entire week is just so busy. We school after showers, after dinner, and my husband and I tag team it, sitting around our living room, and we just rotate. I love reading, he loves math, and we just rotate children. And it's done in an hour. And you know, that's okay. That is the beauty of homeschooling. And so just always remember that. Adjust for your family how it needs to work so that it's not stressful. It should not be a stressful time for you or your children. It should actually be really enjoyable.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. That's the beauty of homeschooling.
Yeah.
Figure out what works for your family and
and go with the flow, which is really hard for me to do as your days progress.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just make sure that whatever schedule you set up, like try to be consistent for your kids' sake. But it is, I mean, there's been times where I've had my kids do their school the night before specifically, even if they weren't planning on it. Just so that I had the whole day open. Like when we start co-op, they will probably be doing school on Tuesday night. So that any bookwork I need done for Wednesday, so that on Wednesday I completely take off. So, which isn't a problem because that's our date night. But just I think it's very key as a homeschool family to really figure out what works for you. You're not a public school.
Yeah.
Just don't try to be.
No.
Because you're going to end up like really damaging your own mind and your kids' mind by trying to force that schedule down.
Well, and you'll end up hating it.
Yeah.
That's not what homeschool is. I had a lot of people during COVID reach out to me about homeschooling, and they're like, how do you do this? And I'm like, what you're doing is not homeschool.
No.
Distance, that's not homeschool. Don't.
No.
And people are like, oh man, I don't know how. I'm like, what you're doing is not homeschool. So don't, you can't compare that. It's a totally different way of learning, and we need to be okay with letting it be a totally different way of learning if this is the path that you're supposed to be on and the choice that you made for your family. So just go in with a very open mind and have fun with it. It should be a non-stress environment.
Yeah. And find the inspiration that you need in the season that you're in. So if you're in a season where everything's busy and you need to unschool for a while, which means pretty much learning through living
what you're doing,
find inspiration, find other people who have done it and have done it well, and let yourself be inspired that for a season that's what you're going to do. Find all the resources. And I know, Andrea, you've got resources. Steph, you've got resources. We're going to link a whole bunch that we didn't even talk about today down in the resources so that you can just poke away and see if there's something there that inspires you. And
realize that cooking is school.
Yeah.
Cleaning is school. Gardening is school. Like
laundry
is school. Everything you do, everything you're teaching your children at home.
Going to the grocery store.
It's school.
It's all school.
Yep. Creating menus is school. Like
looking at grasshoppers is school.
What I just saw a quote the other day. It said, life is learning and learning is life. And it's very true. Everything we do is, and if you could start seeing the way you live, and even you're still in an education. Yeah. You're still getting an education.
If you're smart, you will be learning for the rest of your life.
Yes.
That's what I try and tell my kids. If you are smart, you will learn for the rest of your life.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
And so take the pressure off yourself. Hopefully this encouraged you not to be overwhelmed with the little years. And please, if you could at all help it, don't make your kids sit down for 6 to 8 hours a day.
Not even an hour at this age.
Like, that's just, I mean, we won't judge you if that's what you're doing. If you love it and your kid loves it, then by all means.
Fine.
Yeah. That is, I think maybe how we should end this is to know that no two homeschool families are the same. Yeah. Even if you are similar, you're not the same. Yeah. The way you do things, the way you approach things, the way you teach are going to be different. And that is okay. So for all of us, it has worked 20 minutes or less for these younger age. But if you and your child are not fighting through that, and you guys are doing multiple hours a day and loving it, and that's what's working for your family, go for it. But no, you don't have to do that. If it's a fight tooth and nail, think through what you're doing, and maybe you should pull some of that back. But
Yeah.
never compare yourself to another homeschool family. Don't take mine or Andrea's or Ariel's and try and mimic our days and our homeschool, because it's never going to work that way. Even if we have similar lifestyles, it's never going to work.
Your schedule is different. Your husband's schedule is different.
Your family's different. Your dynamics are different. How many children you have. So their abilities, even you could have the exact same number of kids, the exact same ages, but the abilities of those children are different. The way they learn are different. There's just so many dynamics that go into it. So never take any homeschool advice and think that's how I have to do it. Take what you can out of lots of advice and create your own homeschool, and you will thrive in it.
Yep. And give yourself lots and lots of grace through this time.
And cherish the little years, because they go so fast.
They do.
And then they're gone and you don't get them back.
I know.
Yeah.
Sadness.
Sad emoji there.
Sad.
It's very sad. But the other day I was walking with Gil, and I'm doing some tea time, I think, with him. I think I was on a walk with him. And as a mom I still have littles, and I don't even know if I even said this on the podcast yet, but we're expecting another one in January. And I just was thinking, like, the little years are so fun. I've been so sad to see this. Like, I tell my kids all the time, like, I cannot even imagine being away from you. I cannot, like, I love being with my kids. But then I was thinking, the teenage years are pretty stinking awesome. Like, this is a whole nother phase of life that I need to embrace as much as I have embraced the little years. Even though it's sad to me that I won't have those anymore. I have a totally different relationship with now. I can talk about deeper things. We can learn things together. They're teaching me things now. I mean, there are subjects those kids are smarter than me on. And like, just for the record, I'm a terrible speller, but I have kids that I go to and I ask, hey, how do you spell this? And they know how to spell it. Because and that's another thing. Don't think your mom brain and everything you know is dependent on what your kids are going to know, because some of my kids have outsmarted me in some areas.
Oh, 100%.
I'm really proud of that. Like, I'm super excited for them. But if you're going through the little years, yes, they
can be daunting.
And they're embrace them and be excited. But if you're also one of those moms that has some little ones but has older ones too, those years are equally as awesome, and embrace those just as much as you did the little years.
For sure.
So,
agreed.
And happy homeschooling.
Yes.
Yep. And we'll wrap it up, and we will see you guys on episode 14.
You've been listening to the Whole Topic podcast. To hear more, to see behind the scenes, or to get a hold of us directly, visit our socials, Facebook and Instagram, The Whole Topic Podcast. If you'd like to hear more from Andrea, visit her blog at dearmark23.com, where she talks about whole foods, whole grains, and whole living. If you'd like to hear more from Stephanie, visit theranchershomestead.com, where she talks about simple living, gluten-free recipes, and farm life. If you'd like to see more from me, visit wildandforestcare.com, where I talk about simple living, wild recipes, and natural remedies. Thank you for listening, and God bless.